We're going to continue the cavalcade of Northeastern stars with Kevin Leppman. I promise at least one person today will not be from the Northeast. Thank you, Kevin.
For those who don't know, I am, as Judy mentioned, one of the original founders of the Honk Festival a dozen years ago. And about 2.5 years ago, with friends, I started the School of Honk in Somerville, now Cambridge, Massachusetts. As the name suggests, we are inspired by, in many, many different ways, by the festival we began a dozen years ago. And we can talk about a lot of the values that our school shares with that festival, but I'd like to get back to a kind of essence and talk about it, if I can. I think we only glimpsed it maybe even before the festival, when we were thinking about this crazy idea of making this space for all these bands to come and make this fun that we had heard about. But I think it became clear that first year that we were basically recreating that universe. You mentioned this kind of alternative universe. And I have not stopped thinking about that alternative universe since that very first song. And I think the essence of it, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this music making is the most radical thing we can do. It is not music for social change. It is music as social change. And that what these bands do just happens to be they do better than any other musical form, maybe any other artistic form, is reach deep down into a primordial, essential human capacity, social capacity for music making. We were wailing and singing and beating drums and dancing before we were talking, before we were building fences, before we were sending armies off to war, long before. And quite frankly, as anyone who's been in a band has occasionally wanted to kill their fellow bandmates. When you go out and play together, that's all erased, all is forgiven. You suddenly realize how precious life is, how fast it can be over, and how much you want to be a part of making this form of love rather than any of the other stupid things you might do. And what these bands do is they immediately say to people, of all the other things you could be wasting your time, this is something absolutely precious. It's absolutely authentic, and it doesn't require any explaining. Some of us do, like right now, try and explain it, but I, for one, people who know me, would rather just show rather than tell. So that essence of trying to build that alternative space where actually you are the normal person by dressing up, making a fool of yourself, and playing loud music. What was wonderful about Davis Square that first weekend, and what's wonderful about every Honk festival, is you walk into that universe, and it's the other normal people who are out of place. But not just that. If you're doing it right, they're not intimidated. They want to join in. They're thinking for the first time, well, I could at least move my body a little bit, almost forbidden in most of American culture, but the idea is you want to pull people in to get them thinking, yeah, I could do this. So School of Honk is born out of actually a very simple idea, which is this should not happen once a year. It should happen more often. And even 3 or 4 times a year where you have to go to another Honk festival on the other side of the country isn't enough. So our mandate is to make this happen every week. And a bunch of us who had had a lot of experience, most of us from second line brass band, had a lot of experience with street music and performance. We came up with a bare bones approach to recreate that alternative universe every week. I'm going to pull out my notes to make sure I get this right, but we had set very specific priorities right from the start for this school. The first is, and this is really important, so important that we announced it at the beginning of every week, that we have one purpose, to have fun making music, collective fun making music. There might be other things going on, other important things, but this is the most important thing. This is not in service of something else. You're not trying to build discipline or skills, as educators have to refer to. You're not supporting some other cause somewhere else. This is the cause. Making music is the cause. This is what we should be doing. And we make that clear at the beginning of every session. And we say you can't have fun and worry about playing wrong notes at the same time. Can't do it. Doesn't mean we want to play wrong notes. We're not an open jam. We're not anything goes. It just means we're not going to worry about playing wrong notes. And that means you're going to need facilitators. So just like the festival, in order to create this alternative universe, it taps into something that's natural and organic. You have this sense like it could just happen. But of course, in our world, it doesn't just happen. The reason you have to plan a festival for a year, and it takes a great deal of work, and the reason why our mentors spend a great deal of time thinking about what's going to happen those 2 hours every Sunday afternoon, is because you need to overthrow and resist all kinds of other expectations people have about how to be in public space, about how to approach music, whether they're an audience member, whether they're supposed to be quiet and consume it passively or get involved. And I will say through the School of Honk have rediscovered how much you have to overthrow and overturn a lot of what we all understand as basic premises of music, such as the world is divided up into a few talented people and a vast majority of people who are smart enough to know talent and know they don't have it and know that their job is to stand back and behold it rather than getting up and partaking in it. That is so profoundly deep in our culture. And I may make some enemies here, but I think music education has profoundly failed, not just Americans, but arguably mostly Americans, in getting them. Most people are, to quote Charlie Kyle, they're untuned. By the time they're 10 years old, they already know whether they are allowed to dance, or for the vast majority of them, they shouldn't. They'll be embarrassed, they'll look funny, right? So by 10 years old, we find people who are playing instruments in class and they either hate their instruments, or they're afraid of their instruments, or both. That's a big problem. So without going into too long, let's get to what we do at School of Honk. We announced at the beginning that it's for fun. We make that clear. We have tried very hard, made every effort to make it an extremely diverse group. And when I say diverse, I really mean it. We are half women. Yes! And not just half women, more than half women in leadership roles. We rotate out who's going to lead the parade, who's going to lead a song, who's going to be section leader. More than half of our advanced mentors who are ready to lead songs and sections are women. We have all age groups, and I really mean that. I mean we have more than a dozen regular kids under 10 years of age. We have plenty of teenagers, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, 50-somethings. You get the picture. Real diverse that way, especially with respect to age and gender. We do have people of color, not as many as we would like, and we're making strides to including changes in our repertoire to try and attract more people from the non-white middle class Somerville, Cambridge community. But it is diverse in many ways. Another thing that was really important for us that this approach to music really would be improvisational, but very ear-based training. We do provide sheet music for people online to practice at home, but there's never any sheet music, never any charts in our space. When we come together, we are making music truly the old-fashioned way by making music, by listening to each other, by watching each other on our, I have a trombone player, so I naturally do the trombone. It's, like we like to say, it's much more show than tell. And finally, two other things I'll say about our approach. Our music, our repertoire is very specifically chosen. We don't just play anything, and we don't just invite people to bring in a song. All of our music, almost without exception, is dance music, which makes sense because dancing is the first step to become and it could be any kind of dance, right? You can have a slow rock, dirge dance, but if you see bodies moving, that means you're connecting to that primordial musician in everyone. So it's no big secret we choose dance music that proves time and time again all around the world that those tunes get people moving. And that could be a murga, it could be a second line beat from New Orleans with some of the great funk tunes that just people cannot sit still for. It could be disco. We play Funky Town, Video Killed the Radio Star, and Grooves in the Heart, because that's music that also gets people moving. And we arrange our music so that it has simple parts that people could play their very first day, because that is the promise we make at School of Honk, is in deference to Savannah's thing about Seth and the intimidation, that we've all felt that, right? But the mission of the School of Honk is that someone without any experience is going to be able to walk in the first day, learn to play their first few notes on a trumpet or a saxophone. We have experience in Stallone. And then every week, we go for a parade. There is a performance every week. Not a performance at the end of the semester or at the end of the year where if you're sick that one day, all that rehearsal will have been for naught. No, we perform every week. That is really an important feature. Even if it's pouring rain, we'll find some way to perform. But 50 weeks out of the year, we go for it. How am I doing? A couple of minutes? Two more minutes. So I'll just say, kind of an upshot, we've been about 2.5 years. Our very first day, we put an advertisement at that Honk Festival a few weeks before, and we managed to get, I think, a couple dozen people that first meeting, with about 5 or 6 mentors, people, some of us who had gotten together before and to learn and practice the 2 songs we were going to play that first day, we were going to learn that first day. And I think we thought, you know, this is very positive. If we can keep it at that number, we can have a couple of dozen people every week, understanding that there'll be attrition, we'll have to bring in some new people. But it was a pretty good group. That was our hope. Anyone want to guess what our typical Sunday turnout is now? How many people come out?
150, 60.
We've had 100 several times last year. We averaged 75 people every Sunday afternoon.
When do you meet?
We've been hopping around. I don't have time to go through some of the challenges, but we started out at a small alternative learning space called Sprout, just below Davis Square. In fact, it's often part of HonkFest. It's a kind of venue. It took us about 6 months not only to outgrow the space, but to drive the next door neighbors crazy. A very heartfelt note how video killed the radio star one afternoon finally was the straw. So we moved to a church, which also has been a major venue for HonkFest in our hometown, First Church Somerville. And the problem with their space, in part, was that they had already committed to a theater group for half the year, so we're constantly having to find another space. But then we also outgrew it. It was okay for up to 50 people, but since we now have more like in the 70 or 80, we needed a bigger space, so we moved to Cambridge. And there have been other challenges besides space. We continue to deal with the city. We had noise complaints a few weeks ago and actually had the Cambridge Arts Council measure our volume level and determine, no big surprise, that we are clearly breaking the law every time we go out.
Fist in the air.
We'll deal with it. But since I need to finish up, so let me just come back to what I said before about this being radical social change. It is radical, and it is really social change, because what has also happened, our school doesn't do any activist gigs or anything else. The only times we play are our Sunday afternoon times, where the mission is music making, or other city events such as Porch Fest and HonkFest, where again, the stated goal and mission is to make music. It's not to, sell shares or popcorn or beer or a fundraiser for something else. It is that. And that focus is really important. And we have formed a huge community. We have 500 members in our school now. We have a Facebook group and a listserv, and it has fostered all kinds of impromptu music making on the side, but also just a much larger social network of people who feel that instant camaraderie and trust and love for one another, just like we do at a Honk Festival, where you walk around the streets and you just know in your heart that the people around you also feel that in their heart. And that's been really extraordinary. I really can say that it's been a dream come true, because we walk into Honk Festival every Sunday afternoon. I highly recommend it. Thank you.